Hello, creative people. Welcome to Creative Conversations. My name is Hollis Citron, and we are so happy that you have chosen to spend this hour with us. So I am owner and founder of I Am Creative and Express Yourself Publishing, and I am on a mission to expand the definition of creativity beyond a pencil and a paintbrush and empower people, especially adults, to own their voice that come in so many different forms. So this space was created to talk with people with all different jobs, hobbies, and interests, and have conversations about experiences and perspectives, all centered around three questions. 1, how do you define creativity? 2, how do you incorporate it into your life? And 3, why do you think it's important? Then we have a free-flowing conversation, and we see where it goes. So I have had the opportunity to talk to musicians, Reiki masters, mediums, doctor, lawyer, real estate agents, and so many more. And these conversations explore the reality that creativity is not cute, it is necessary. People have defined creativity as their soul's essence, courage, imagination, basically all that we are and want to be. So sharing these stories expands one's thinking and opens up self-expression to feel more empowered, connected, and dare I say, happy. My inspiring guest for today is Dr. Dawn Menge. Dr. Dawn has won over 41 international awards as the author of the Queen Vernita, sorry if I say that wrong, educational series, including the Special Recognition Champion Award from Conquering Disabilities with Film Festival, the Best Book from Miracle Makers Film Festival, and International Author Boss from Power Conversations magazine. Dr. Menge has been teaching students with severe cognitive delays, and she mentors and lectures. She is a pretty busy woman, and I am so grateful to have her here as my last interview of 2021, which is insane. So welcome, Dr. Dawn.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So glad that you're here. Let me make this a little louder. Yeah, so last interview of 20, like this went, I don't know, it went so fast this year.
Yes, it's been an interesting year, that's for sure.
Definitely has. So could you please, I just read like a little snippet of who you are. Could you please give us a little bit more background about who you are and whatever you want to say?
I have a PhD in curriculum instruction, and I have been teaching students with severe cognitive delays for over 20 years. And that is a lot of my passion, and my creativity started there. And actually, my first children's book I wrote taking a math class for my credential. And so our assignment was to write a math book and create a game. And so I put my students in my book. And it's based on the days of the week, months of the years, and the seasons. And each month is a new friend, and they have 7 activities. And we actually went around and did it as a play, a little skit, to the elementary schools. And I would go back the next day, and I would explain my students' disabilities and their behaviors. And it was an educational experience for all of the students. And I got a grant through Cal Poly, which is a local college. And so that's where my educational journey began.
Oh my gosh. An experiential skit. What you're doing is so friggin' important. And it's opening up this awareness, which is so beautiful. I have a brother who's special needs, born lack of oxygen to the brain, so cognitive delays. And it's just so important to be able to teach and show people that people are people, and to educate, because what you don't know is what you don't know. But when you're exposed, then you can have a different frame of reference. So thank you for all that you're doing.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that in our classroom, that is one thing that is actually what my dissertation was written on, is workability. So we teach our students to work in the community, and they get paid for it. And so we did a lot of that. I had a classroom for a period of time that was in the storefront. And we got to work in the businesses, the local businesses, and my students went to the college. And so they got a lot of really amazing experiences. And they actually there's these little Christmas trees you can make with hangers, and you put lights on them and garland. And we used to make those, our students made them, and we would sell them. And by doing that, we were able to take our students swimming with the dolphins in SeaWorld.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Because that's something that I have done in my own life. So I wanted my students to have that experience. So we did it. We had to fight pretty hard to be able to do that because it was kind of very different. And all the parents got to come and they got to do it with their children. And we went down and we put wetsuits on and got in the aquarium with the dolphins, and they loved it. And I was actually homeschooling a little girl who had become paralyzed, and she had to work really hard with her OT and PT therapist so that she could be strong enough to go, but she did it. And so we took her mom, her little sister, and her uncle. And it was just a really great experience for everybody. My students earned their own money.
So the kids are, so your students are, is it high school to 21 before they age out?
Yeah, our students reach their 22nd birthday. I've taught from elementary school all the way till 22.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So I've done the whole range. I actually was very lucky. I started at the elementary school with a set of students, and when I got my credential, I moved to the junior high, and I got to take my assistants with me. And so we all stayed together all the way through until all of my students graduated and they moved on, and it was a really neat experience. So we were able to really bond with the parents, and we had a lot of trust with each other, which is really important. And so we got to do a lot of really, really neat things. I live in Southern California in the mountains, and I grew up in a really small town. And the one thing we got to do was go snow skiing at the local ski hill. It was owned by a family in town, and we got to work there on the summers to earn our passes, and we would go skiing. And so I wanted my students to have that opportunity too. So I applied for grants, and we did it for about 4 years, and they took adaptive ski lessons. And it didn't matter what their ability was or disability was, they all had an opportunity to do it. So I had some students who were able to snowboard, all the way to students who had, like, they called them reins on their skis, where the ski instructors kind of guided their skis. And then for the ones that had seizure disorders or weren't strong enough, they actually were in a sled and they took them down. And so it was just, a really neat experience, and we all loved it.
Oh my gosh. This brings tears to my eyes because it's this whole adaptability, and each person can do something. It's just a matter of adapting to where they're at, meeting them where they're at.
Yes.
So here in what I call this exploring the influence of being a good teacher, this is what a good teacher does is, one, I love that you had the time to really bond with your students. It's not just kind of like have them for a year and move on.
Yeah.
You really had the space to build trust. And I love that word because it's so freaking important. People, you just have to highlight that word trust, because kids have to trust you, one, in order to really be able to open up and expand. But then, gaining the trust with the families and caregivers, it's just, you can just do so much together when you've earned that space.
Yeah, well, you really, really have to have a good, close attachment with the families to be able to say, well, I want to take your child snow skiing. And most
Right.
people, what? I'm like, yeah. And they go, okay, go ahead, and with the administration, because, some of the things were kind of, things could happen. And, going swimming with the dolphins. I actually had a brand new administrator when we did that. And he had just started about a month before, and it had already been planned for a year. So he got to go with us. So that was like his first experience as an administrator, was going into this pool with the dolphins with our students, so, but part of that, I'm leading into my educational series. So when I got divorced, I decided I wanted to publish the first book. And, teachers love to publish books. And so that was my only goal, was to actually just publish it. And I didn't really think about marketing or anything else or writing another book. That was like a huge thing for me. And so I immediately started winning awards. I won an Evie Award, and I started getting interviews, and people were asking me, well, what's your next book? And I'm like, I wasn't writing one. I don't know. That was it. And so from there, I have my assistants who are really close. We all kind of collaborated and thought about it. And I love to travel. I got that from my grandmother. So when I published it, I actually then named it after my grandmother, Vernita. So it's called Queen Vernita's Visitors.
Mm-hmm.
And so the first book, I put all the children in our family, and like my father had passed away. And so I put the children in thinking, well, they're not going to, they're not going to say anything. They're little kids. They don't care, And then what I found was that actually adults like being in the books. And so that was a big surprise for me. So I named it Queen Vernita's, and my grandmother actually started her own credit union with her father, and they went door to door and got members and started the Methodist Credit Union. And she was a world traveler. And so I just started traveling. My mom would take me and my son traveling. When he was 16, we went to Tahiti and Alaska together. And he was such a great sport that he would go with us, and it wasn't really like cool for a 16-year-old to be with his mother and his grandmother. But we had a lot of really neat experiences together. We loved Tahiti, and Alaska was really neat. We went kayaking and all sorts of things. And so we do a lot of traveling as a family. And so all of my adventures are based on actual travels and all the real people in our family, my friends, and I also have included my students.
Okay, this is going to be amazing. We've you've so much goodness. So let's dive into, but first, actually, before we go into our would you rather question, I just want to, before I forget, just address the whole, when you said you wanted to put a book out, you weren't worried about the how, you just had a goal. You're just like, I want to create this book. I'm going to put it out, and weren't thinking about the marketing, like you said, wasn't thinking about writing another one. It's just that was your goal. And I think it's important for people to hear that and to stress that when we set goals, we don't have to know everything about it. We just know that we want to get to it. And then you didn't know how it was going to unfold. And it led you to this whole different place, which is so freaking freeing, isn't it?
Yeah, I was getting divorced, and it's like, well, what do I, my children were raised, and like, what do I do now? So I'm like, okay, I'm going to publish this book. And so I did. I found a self-publishing company, and not knowing anything about anything, I didn't try to do it traditionally or anything. It's like, this is just what I want to do. And I also started my PhD program. So that kept me really, really busy and centered while I was going through the divorce and all the transitioning and, trying to establish my own life again. And so, no, I never anticipated, I'm not a great public speaker. And so none of this was really anything I didn't know what to do, how to do it. But the first or second summer, it was a lot easier at that time than it is now, is I would call a bunch of libraries. I think I did like 13 of them over my summer break. And my grandma actually went with me, and my mom went with me. And we did a lot of the libraries in Southern California. And we were driving down there, and my mom was a kindergarten teacher for over 20 years. And I had my grandma with me, and she's in the back seat, and she says, we need a craft. And I'm like, why do we need a craft? Like, I'm going to go read my book, that was enough. And so she actually created a crown just out of construction paper in the back seat of my car. And that was in 2008, 2009. And I'm still using it when I do events, and we take stickers and crayons and markers, and the kids love it. They create their own crowns. They color their own pictures on it. And if I go to a big event, you can see them all walking around with the little crowns on their heads, even the boys. And that surprises me that the boys like it so much. So we made a crown that looks kind of like a king's crown. And so they wear that, but they love it just as much as the little girls. And it's just really neat to be at an event and walk around and see your little crowns all over the place. And
so much experience is such a huge part in things, like the actual experiential part. That's kind of all of what I'm about in what I do, and it's getting your hands in. It helps process information more and adds the personalization and really can kind of put people in the space. So yeah, and again, this kind of, your grandmother was just like, we need a craft, and she just came up with that. Like, who knew? Again, it's not planning out every freaking step. We think we have to have everything planned, but we're more open when we don't.
yeah,
Because that's when things just kind of flow through, and yeah, that's when the magic happens.
Yeah, I didn't know the rules, so I couldn't follow them because I didn't know what they were. So, we're just like, okay, this is what we're doing, and it was really a neat experience. I wish that it was easier to get into the libraries now, but they've made it a lot more difficult. But the one, so now I'm putting out my 13th book. It should be coming out any week now, and I wrote it all down yesterday, and I've actually won 69 awards.
Holy crap.
For this series. And I think there's a couple more I'm still trying to look up. I got really busy and wasn't writing them down and things, and so I'm going to look them up. But the one thing that I did is it was during the pandemic or right before it. And on Facebook, I saw this ad for Conquering Disabilities with Film Festival. And I didn't have a screenplay or anything, but I thought, oh, I've never done that. I like to do things I've never done before and just like try them. And so I wrote the head of it, and I said, well, can I enter my books? And she said, of course. And so my books have disabilities in them. They have my students in them. And so I entered them, and through them, it's a mega fest that was in Vegas in July. So I went, and I entered a few other I entered Hollywood Dreams and Action on Film and Miracle Makers. And my series won the Special Recognition Champion Award from the Conquering Disabilities Film Festival. And then I have another book that's not part of this series. It's based on an experience I had with someone who wasn't very nice, but it's called Dragon's Breath. And that won Best Book for Miracle Makers. And they actually played my book trailers on the big screen at the movie theater. And that was just really exciting. I had never thought that any of that would happen.
Right.
And, so it's all been, just, it's not anything I ever planned or imagined, or it was like, oh, okay, well, let's do this,
But it's being open to it. Okay, so here we go. Quick would you rather question. And then we'll dive into the first official question and then have even more of an amazing chat. So, okay. So, Dr. Dawn, would you rather wear sweatpants every day for the rest of your life or never wear them again?
Oh, every day. Yes, I'm a teacher. So, we have to get dressed in the morning. We have meetings, and we kind of refer to it as dressing for company when we have meetings. Because we have a physical job, so I don't go dressed in heels or anything. And so I've been off for 2 weeks, and so I've been wearing my pajamas or my, it's been snowing, and I used to be like, oh, I'd be so bored, and like, so now I'm getting to the point where I think it sounds really good.
And you know what? Sweatpants, you could dress up. There are so many different kinds of sweatpants now. So, and your job is very physical. And if people understand, when you're working with people with, physical and cognitive developmental disabilities, I mean, you're lifting, you're getting down on the ground, you're not just standing around a desk spouting information.
No, I have 5 assistants. So you have that many assistants when you have like a lot of behaviors.
Yeah.
And so we do a lot of really fun stuff in the classroom. We just had Purple Easel, which is a painting company, come in, and they painted Christmas trees with our students. And it was all from just a blank canvas. They were really wonderful with our students, and they made it for their Christmas presents. And so in January, when we go back, through the process of being an author, I went to the library in San Bernardino, which is local here. And the librarian, her husband is an international cartoonist. He founded Cartoonists Across America. So he's been coming into my classroom. This will be the 3rd time. And he creates a mural. And then there are 4 classes within our pod that are special ed. And they each take turns painting on the mural. Mm-hmm. So we'll be doing that in January.
But this is the beauty of connecting with people and finding out what other people's talents are and bringing them into a space and making everybody's world more expansive.
Yes.
So, okay, so here we go. Let me get into my first official question, and then we are going to just expand. So, how do you define creativity?
Oh, for me, creativity, is, you know what? It's really just anything that comes from your heart, where you start from nothing and make it into something just really amazing for whatever it is you're doing. Creativity can be anything from writing a book, illustrating a picture, painting a picture, finding ways to help my students. You have to be very creative with that. It could be even managing your bills. Sometimes you have to become creative. It's just finding a way to get to where you want to be.
Mm. I love how you said that it comes from your heart. Because when it comes from your heart, then it's authentic.
Yes, if you're just copying something from something else, you're not really being creative. It has to be original from start to finish.
I think that there's ways of, I think if you're inspired by something, doesn't always have to be within the context of visual arts, but I'm just in this example putting it that way. I'll have two examples actually. So let's say you do see something like Van Gogh inspires you. You can put your own twist on that by working from your heart because you like the way he uses texture and colors and all of that kind of stuff. I believe that creativity can be born from something else by putting your own heart into it, like you said. Also, like, let's say within sales, let's say you really admire the way my son is working for he's an inspector for a roofing company. And he's been getting a lot of sales trainings. And he's really getting inspired by all the different techniques and ways that you can use language in order to approach people, because it's all psychological, how it makes people feel and you know, all of this kind of stuff, which is what everything boils down to. How do you make people feel when you're talking to them? That bases on how they'll respond to you. So he's been really inspired by watching like his supervisor present all of these different ways and then making it his own.
Yes. Well, like with my teaching, I had amazing mentors.
Mm-hmm.
And they showed me, you know, what's important for our students, how to integrate our students, you know, and then I added my own and just expanded it way beyond what actually they were doing. And when I became an author, when I had about 3 or 4 books out, that's something authors should be careful of. I found someone who was trying to actually kind of copy my books and, you know, go off of my adventures, you know, which they're my adventures. And so I actually joined the Society of Children's Books Writers and Illustrators and met the most amazing people. I mean, you know, they could be New York Times bestselling authors or people who hadn't even published their books yet, because it takes a lot of, I'm going to say, guts to put it out there.
Yeah.
And criticize any kind of art. And that was one of the best things that I ever did. So I highly recommend anybody who wants to do anything is to join organizations where there are other mentors that can help you. You're not copying them. They're helping you build your own creativity.
Yes.
And Kwame Alexander is an author for middle school. And he has a speech called Yes. And when I was really tired at one point, I was at a conference in LA, children's authors are so much fun. And he gave this speech about saying yes to opportunities, which is what you're saying. And, you know, here he is. He's a New York Times bestselling author. Disney is making a movie out of one of his books right now. And you're thinking, well, they never went through anything hard or, you know, it was easy for them. And they talk about how many rejections they've had. And, you know, he says, I used to be self-published. I used to do this. I used to do that. You know, he said, and at the point where my wife said, I can't do this anymore, you need to get a real job, was when he actually started taking off. But to know that they actually struggled and what they went through. And so I started saying yes to a lot of things and have just had so many opportunities. And that's kind of what your son is doing, just new opportunities, new people.
Yeah, exactly. And that whole saying yes aspect, it's especially as adults. So this is why I started my company, I Am Creative, being an art teacher for 30 years and then getting, you know, to 51. And I just kind of, for me, I was like, I need to switch this up. I really want to work with adults and this whole adulting thing, and why we deny ourselves joy and happiness, because we get so stuck in life, because we're not saying yes, because we are just kind of like, well, I have too much responsibility. I have to pay the mortgage. I have to pay the rent. I have kids. I have animals. I have, whatever. And people just get stuck, as we know, on the hamster wheel. And just reiterating and showing and inspiring how you can, these little baby steps, incorporate into your life, which creates more connection,
Yes.
which makes you feel better, which then makes you just, you interact with other people better, and it just makes you happy.
Yes.
And it feels good.
Yes, and you meet the neatest people. I actually started doing things with Story Monster magazine, which is out of Tempe, Arizona, and the publisher and the editors. And now I do write book reviews for them, and I judge their literary contests. And my mom and I have driven to Phoenix, Arizona so many times, to be part of their events. And, they've taught me so much. And I probably wouldn't have thought, well, like, what would I have in common with them? Like, they're publishers of a magazine. I have this little series, but, I just have so many more experiences now.
So how did that connection happen?
I entered my books into some of their literary contests. And all of my books have won. All of my books are Story Monster approved, and they've won either the Purple Dragonfly or the Royal Dragonfly. And then I started going to events with her in Phoenix and Tempe, and it just kind of went from there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So again, this is trying new things. It's going outside of your box, your wheelhouse, your norm. So tell me about those voices that happen. First of all, this is an interesting fact. It's a little random, but do you hear, that self-talk that we have? My daughter was telling me, I don't know if she got it from TikTok or where she got her information. She's like, do you know that there's a small amount, it's a small percentage of people, I forgot what it is, of people who actually hear the voice inside their head? And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, how could you not hear the voice inside your head? But then in talking to some people, they don't hear the voice inside your head. So do you hear the voice inside your head, or does it come through in different ways?
Well, isn't that your conscience? It's like, oh, let's try this, or let's do this, or I'm kind of self-driven, so maybe that's my voice. The self-talk, some people talk about self-talk, like if you are always kind of in yourself, talking down about yourself, oh, I can't do this, or, oh, right. I'm not as good as that person. It really affects what you're doing. I've never really paid a whole lot of attention of what other people are doing. I don't compare myself to them because my life is very different from theirs. Mm-hmm. And so that's one thing during the pandemic, when I couldn't do any more physical events, I started doing a lot more interviews and things. And I've talked to people from all over the world. It's been amazing. Australia, New Zealand, Jamaica, Canada, it's just amazing. And a lot of the countries are interested in our special ed and what we're doing with them. But I would never have met any of these people if I had not just said, okay, let's try this.
Right.
So maybe that's my voice. Okay, let's try this.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of like, I don't know whether you want to call it like your gut or your intuition or all of that. Yeah. I mean, I guess just to kind of expand, just to make clear on that, I like physically hear a voice in my head. It's kind of like,
oh,
yeah. I don't know. So anyway, but yeah, so this whole expansion, it's beautiful because these conversations, I remember, when the dressing rooms and things were starting to be able to open up during the times of all of this, our daughter was traveling to Costa Rica and for 6 weeks. And I got to talking with somebody waiting outside the dressing room, of course, as women do. And she was saying that, her parents owned a travel agency and she's been traveling since she's 8 and all of this. And we just talked about how important it is to have these experiences.
Yes.
And be able to see that people are people. They have different customs, different routines, different, within different cultures, but there are so many similarities because we're all people.
Mhm.
And it's just so important to have those experiences.
Oh, yes. That's, people think travel is something you do, as a treat or something, but you really need to travel, even if it's just, getting in your car and going to a different environment. I've had a lot of conversations, I'm in California and you're on the East Coast. So my growing up in a small mountain community is going to be very different from what you're growing up,
Right.
whatever your circumstances was. And we tend to forget that.
Yeah.
We're not all coming from the same place. We're all people. We all have the same needs, basic needs, but we've all had very different experiences.
Yeah. And when you were actually talking about the person who speaks and the whole thing about saying yes, and how things were hard and you never would know it, unless he shared the story. Again, I just think it's important to highlight and say, like, you don't know people's stories.
Right.
You don't know. People present differently there are people that present exactly what's going on and it shows up, like there's no question. And then there are other people that present and don't show you their story. They don't show you their struggle. They don't show you where they came from because they don't want to share that aspect. It's not something that needs to be seen. And I just think that's something that I learned in all of the years of teaching, so grateful for, is that awareness and just the awareness and being grateful of hearing people's stories when they feel safe and they feel like they can trust you. I had students that I had no idea that were living in homeless shelters.
Right.
And they didn't present that way. You just wouldn't know. Until her teacher shared some information. I was like, interesting. This explains certain things in behaviors, but you just wouldn't know. So, and then some people just wear it on their sleeve and are just acting out and throwing supplies across the room and getting into fights, but then found out that, their father was just arrested the day before.
Right.
So they're a little upset.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I started doing, because, people see, well, I have a PhD and I've been teaching for 20 years and I have this series and I travel. But people don't think that. They think, well, that just happened. You had all that because nothing bad ever happened to you. And so you didn't have to start over or, swim upstream or anything. And so I talk a lot about, yeah, I did, I had a domestic violence, my divorce. I've been married 27 years. I had to start over. And then when I started dating, I was stalked by some dumb person, the dumb woman, and actually wrote a book about it. It's called Dragon's Breath. But, I was in a car accident when I was 16 and spent my junior year in a body cast. So, yes, I've had struggles. I've had bad things happen to me. I've had to fight my way back. And, it wasn't easy.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing all that. But it's like these stories, don't you agree that people can become victims of their circumstances, or they can, move on and say yes, which is so much of what you'd been saying, that you just were like, yes, I'm saying yes, and I'm opening myself up to these experiences and not knowing the how, or getting laser focused, and this is what I want to do. You have a choice.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to fight. I mean, everybody has a story. Everybody has something they've been through, and you have to fight and find that place in the world where you are.
Yeah.
And it's always great to focus on how you can positively impact other people. And I can't show you the books, but I wrote one. I have a friend, when I got divorced, I have a friend I grew up with who lives in Kona. And so I got to go there, every 6 months or so and stay with him and his wife and just relax and enjoy the island and all that. But I actually wrote 2 books about them. And one is, he's a Sea Captain Jeff and she's Enchantress Carrie. And it's all about the adventures. My son, we actually all flew out there. My son got married on the beach there. Mm. And so in 2019, I published Queen Vernita Conquers the Volcanic Islands. And it's about swimming with the sharks and and the Volcanic Island, the Volcanic National Park, and I added Rett syndrome and autism. And the child who has autism is at the Volcanic National Park, and he's with his dad, and he uses a communication device because he's nonverbal. And so he's teaching the Queen about it. And so, you were talking about that we have to remember that our students are people who have, some needs. And so the students that are in my books, I usually only put about 2 in the books. They're just living their lives, and you're just reading the book, and then, here's a child who has autism, and he has a special communication need, and he's teaching the Queen. So a child or an adult who's reading this, they know that, if someone in the campus has a phone or they have, their iPad, they're not playing games. They're trying to communicate, and then you can focus on that. And the other little girl, she has Rett syndrome, and she's making lacing the leis with flowers for her classmates. So she's going to school. She wants to share with her classmates. Her mom's helping her, and her mom's explaining to the Queen why she needs help, a little bit about Rett syndrome.
What is Rett syndrome?
It's a form of autism, actually. And I can read her page if you'd like.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, so they're making leis out of the flowers, and the Queen is there. And Heather and Ireland were busy making leis out of beautiful pink and violet hibiscus flowers. How gorgeous your leis are, and their aroma is intoxicating, exclaimed the Queen. I am helping Ireland make 30 leis, one for each day of April, to celebrate spring with her classmates. Ireland has trouble with her ability to use her fingers due to her Rett syndrome, Heather explained as she laced another flower onto the string. Ireland is beautiful. What is Rett syndrome? Asked the Queen. Monday, the Queen learned that Rett syndrome is a genetic brain disorder. Tuesday, she learned it affects language, coordination, and causes repetitive movements. Wednesday, Heather explained it is a rare neurological and developmental disorder. Thursday, the Queen saw Ireland's lack of use of eye and body movements. Friday, Heather explained to the Queen that even though Ireland doesn't speak, she has many facial expressions that speak louder than words. Saturday, Heather explained that Rett syndrome mainly affects females and is a mutation of the MECP2 gene. Sunday, Heather informed the Queen that Rett syndrome is so rare that it affects fewer than 20,000 children in the kingdom per year.
Wow.
The Queen had so many leis she could hardly carry them, but she put a single red hibiscus flower behind her ear, signifying that she is not married. This is a Tahitian custom she learned. The fragrant aroma followed her as she found Brent waiting for her to take her to the orange sand beach. Take care, my dear Ireland and Heather. Enjoy your spring celebration. So that's her page.
What's so amazing about that to me is that there are so many conversation starters in there, because you're putting all this in the context of a story that it all flows really nicely, and introducing these characters, and then you're educating people and having people be able to ask questions and even look things up if they want, or, just expanding people's knowledge. Thank you for that.
And they don't really know that they're learning.
They don't. They don't, because it's all within the context of the story.
A lot of times I'm asked, well, are you going to write a story about disabilities? And I don't want to do that. Mm-hmm. It's like, no, because then we're focusing on the disabilities and not the adventure or the information or, the volcanic park or the flowers or the leis or, swimming with the dolphins, or we're not focusing on that they're doing all of that. So I don't want to focus on just, this is a story about disabilities.
Hear that, everybody? It's focusing on the adventure. Yes, because people with disabilities are people.
Yes.
And they just bring their light to the world in ways that they bring their light to the world, like we all do. We all have disabilities. It's just we may not have a label per se. So friggin' important. Thank you. Just in love with this.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So we talked about a lot of ways already that you incorporate creativity into your own life, through travel, through your writing, through your teaching. Is there anything that you want to add to that you enjoy doing for yourself, or as far as any morning routines, or just whatever ways that you incorporate creativity into your life?
No, that pretty much takes up a lot of my time. When I have downtime, I watch TV.
Hmm. Do you have a favorite show or anything that you like? Do you like movies? Do you like TV shows?
Well, I like Godzilla movies.
Okay.
When I was a little younger, I really liked slasher movies, which is very strange for a children's author and a teacher, but they're movies. They're all imagination. I really like those. Right now, I've been watching How to Get Away with Murder on Netflix. So
Okay.
only a couple more days, and I got to go back to work. But one thing that we did recently, my publisher has someone at Netflix that is interested in the series. So we took two of my books. I wrote one with my brother, who's an astronomer at JPL up here, and we wrote a book called Queen Vernita Meets Sir Heathy Bean the Astronomer. So his name is Heath. When he was little, I called him Heathy Bean. So now he's Sir Heathy Bean. And he wanted to be a professor with all this wild hair and bunny slippers. So that's what he is in the book. But we turned that book and we go camping every year at Halama Beach. It's up in the central coast of California. And there's usually 25 of us. And I turned that into a screenplay. So we've just finished that and been entering it into film festivals. And hopefully Netflix will be interested.
Oh my gosh. That's incredible.
Going.
That's wow. So I want to ask you a little bit about your thought process, but first I do want to mention about the slasher movies. My husband is a TV film editor and producer, and he's explained to me on many occasions that slasher movies and horror movies are really kind of comedies. He's like, when you look at it in that way, he's like, people are having, the actors and actresses are having so much fun doing it because it's so over the top
Yeah.
and it's so extreme that because I personally get caught up in this empathic way of I'm like, I can't, like, it doesn't work for me. I kind of get caught up in what I'm seeing. And he keeps saying to me, it's just a movie. They're having so much fun and laughing about it. I'm like, I can't laugh. I can't.
Yeah, but you can't really think about, well, the ones that are kind of more based on realistic things, I can't watch those because it's like, no. But when I was growing up, Jaws came out. So that's how old I am. But we were so scared of Jaws. We wouldn't go into the ocean. And now you watch it and you're like, really?
Yes, it's so mechanical looking. Yeah, totally. They actually, when we would spend the summers at the beach, it was playing in the theater at the beach, thinking, really? That's what you would show at, like, a beach community?
Yeah, when I was 18, it was like, there's sharks in there. And it's like, oh my gosh. Now you look at it and you're thinking, that is so obviously fake. Like, why are we afraid of it?
It's so funny. There's this place locally called like Smoothie Movies, and we ordered these smoothies. And while we were waiting for them, they have like all these different movies. And when I was watching, I'm thinking, what are the hair and the outfit 70s? And I'm like, wait a minute, is this Jaws? He said yes. Oh my God. So what I wanted to ask you about your ideas. So as you're creating your books, which are turning into movies and screenplays and all these things, what do you do for yourself? Are these just kind of like quick and easy downloads that just come to you? Do you create outlines and structures? Like, how does it work for you? It may not be the same each time. Just curious.
Well, they're all based on my actual adventures. So we do a lot. Like during the pandemic, my children are all grown, and I have 6 grandchildren. They did a lot of camping. They planned family camping trips. So about once a month, we all went camping, and we went to the Grand Canyon, and we went to Zion. And so they're going to be books. So while we're there camping and I'm with my family and we're doing all of that, I'm thinking about, I wonder if this would be a really good book. Like, what grade level would it be? And what would I put in? I like to put kind of different things in there. So for the Grand Canyon, we use actual pictures of the adventures, and my illustrator makes them into the illustration. And my children and grandchildren were riding bicycles on the rim. So that'll be great. And we were staying at a KOA. So they had go-karts. And so that'll be a page. and we hiked down, which turned out to be like the hardest trail, the Angels Trail or something. And so we didn't get very far, but we have pictures and you can barely see us and you could just see the winding trail that goes down to the Grand Canyon. Well, that will be in the book, and we're just living our lives. We did some gold panning, the kids did, and so the different kinds of things that we'll do based on whatever grade level I think it'll be. So that would be like 6th grade because we're going to have a lot of geological information. And we just do that. One I published, it's my mom's favorite, but she took all of us, there was 19 of us, there's a train that goes from Williams, Arizona to the Grand Canyon. And so one Thanksgiving, we all went. And then when we got back, we put our pajamas on and we got on the Polar Express. And we had people there from in their 70s to, I think my grandson might have been 2. And so I actually published a book on it. It's called Queen Vernita's Magical Christmas Train Ride. And Monday, I won an award from Power Conversations magazine. It's the International Author Boss Award for that book. And it's pre-K and it's about the train ride. It has all my grandchildren, looking out the train, and it talks about the trees and the bandits. The bandits came, and the music and all of that. And so everything I do comes from what I'm actually doing in my life. So, after I do it, then I outline each month what each month I want to talk about and 7 facts. And then my illustrator takes our actual pictures and incorporates them into the illustration. And then we go from there.
Wow. Real life experiences. So the Polar Express, was the Polar Express in this area in Arizona, or where you said it was?
Yeah. Actually, the Polar Express is all over the place. It was actually part of the train depot. So it was part of that program. We were in Williams, Arizona, but I know they do them all over. But yeah, it was really neat. And by the time we got back, because we'd been on the train to the Grand Canyon and it was snowing, so it was really neat. My grandson fell asleep in Santa Claus's lap. And that's actually the cover of the book.
Oh my God.
And then we went to Flagstaff and went to a Santa's workshop. And the kids actually got to make stuffed animals. And so they're part of that. That's one of the illustrations that they're working inside Santa's workshop, making it. But they actually did that. So all of everything just comes from my life.
As you're talking, it just is popping into my head. Things do not have to be so hard. Here we sit and we think, okay, I have to invent something that's from nothing. I have to, that everything is how, where's it going to come from? And here you're taking your real life experiences, which are these adventures, and you are turning it into, you're using your imagination to turn it into these spaces, these magical spaces. And just so inspirational.
Yeah, that's the one thing I do really suggest for people who want to try something different. It could be anything. It doesn't have to be writing a book, but look at your own life. People think, well, I don't do anything interesting, or yes, you do.
Yes.
You might not know that you do, but someone else might not know what even that is. Right. And so you start doing it, you start talking about it, and then you might affect someone else. And I always say, if you've positively affected one person, you've done a good job. You don't do things for the money. We all need money, but you don't do it to chase the money. You're impacting people positively. And if you're impacting them positively, good things will come from it.
Yeah, exactly. So before we go on to the third question, before we wrap it up, I kind of want to go back to the classroom for you a little bit, and just ask, so how many students do you generally have in a classroom?
I've had between, my lowest has been probably 7 or 8 up to 21.
Wow, 21?
At one point I had 2 classrooms just by accident. And it just kind of expanded until I just said, I can't do this, you guys.
Oh my God.
There was a few years ago, there was a political push to kind of go after public education. Yeah. And so they went after the special ed, the lawyers did. And So I had a lot of that I was given. They weren't mine to begin with, but high profile cases and some behaviors. So I had like a room with the behaviors, and then I had an academic room. And when they gave me, I think I was on my 22nd student. I just said, I can't do this. It was wearing me out. And so right now, I started the year with 15, and right now I believe I have 7.
Wow.
And so it'll be really nice. I've had the same team for about 8 years now, and we do really well. I just love them. And so we're going to do a lot of really fun stuff now with the students, go into the community a lot more, bring a lot more people. I had an author friend come in, and she actually did 8 classrooms and brought boxes and boxes of books. I work with, it's called Hindy's Libraries out of Long Island. And I actually just judge one of their literary contests, and I donate my books to them. And she was part of that too. And so we just donated boxes and boxes of books to the students. And so one opportunity leads to another opportunity. If you just say yes, you get to do so many different things.
So many different things. Did you always want to be a teacher, or did it just kind of happen?
Well, when my kids were little, when I first graduated from high school, I wanted to be a business person. I was going to have a business. I wasn't going to stay home with my kids, all of that. I was going to be independent. And then I met my husband, got married, and had 3 babies. And I stayed home with them. And at that point, I thought, well, my mom was a kindergarten teacher at that point. And I said, well, I'm going to be a preschool teacher. I can do that. And I actually got all of my certificates for being a preschool teacher. And I got sick and went back to school. And part of my training, getting credits at junior college, was you could get credits for volunteering or working. So I worked in my mom's classroom, took my little girls with me, and she taught me well. She taught me how to be a teacher, and it just went from there.
Mm-hmm. Again, just being kind of open. We don't know. We can have these ideas of this is how this is going to happen, and it doesn't always happen that way. It's not always what we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, you have to be open to a new path.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So as we're getting to the top of the hour, the third and final official question is, why do you think creativity is important?
Oh, it's the mainstay of human life. I mean, without creativity, nothing's invented. Nothing is discovered. We would be dormant if we weren't using our creativity in some way. And that's something you have to remember. Creativity is not just art or writing, or it's inventions. It's being creative in the classroom, finding ways to help your students. You have to get creative sometimes, living your life, that creativity encompasses almost everything we do.
Yeah, I would pretty much say it does encompass everything, like how you wake up, what you choose to, if you have a morning routine or not, what you choose to put on your body, how you choose to wear makeup, if you're wearing makeup, how you choose to wear your hair, what you're choosing to eat. All of these are creative aspects in your life. How you, if you're a parent, how you parent, how you approach your jobs, how you just everything is a choice and is an expression.
Yes. It's how you're expressing yourself and what you love, your passions.
And that's which is why I started what I do with I Am Creative, with this podcast, with my publishing house, is that when people are not expressing themselves is when people feel frustrated and angry and sad.
Yes.
Because they're not allowing it to come through. They're not giving themselves permission to have the time, even if it's 5 minutes. I'm not talking about hours and hours. When people I find are so completely, I don't know what I want. I don't know what I want to do. I'm not good at anything. Even if it's finding 5 minutes to go for that walk because you like being in nature.
Right.
To make that drink, that smoothie, or, be in the kitchen because you really do enjoy cooking, but it's been a really long time. Either find the recipe or just take ingredients and start making something.
Right.
It doesn't have to be a life, I'm quitting my job and just altering my life in every way. But I promise that when you do these things, your life will change.
Right. And to think that I'm not good at anything. That's that self-talk. That's that doubt. But that isn't true. You just haven't discovered what it is you're really good at, or you haven't opened yourself up enough to. And it takes a lot of guts to get out in the world and present yourself, your art, your writing, because there are critics, there are people who are going to criticize what you're doing, but it's coming from your heart. So you just have to keep putting it out there.
Which is what you said in the beginning. Creativity is coming from your heart. And whatever it is that I remember, I had a guest on here before. He is a biologist, and we went to high school together, but it had been many, many years since we'd spoken. And he's like, Hollis, I have no idea why you asked me to be here. Like, I don't have like a creative bone in my body. I'm like, oh my God, you are the person I need to exactly be speaking to. I'm like, why are you a biologist and a teacher? And he's like, I like looking through the microscope. I think it's sexy to see the colors and the shapes, the way they come together. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is why we're talking.
Yeah, see, he doesn't even appreciate the fact that is creativity.
Yes. Yes. And that's like, the end of the conversation, he's like, oh my God, we need to do this again. I didn't realize, but it's like you said too, you said something to that effect as we were speaking, is we take advantage of the fact because it just comes naturally to us, or we just do it, that not everybody can.
Right. And he's not even appreciating the fact that he has to be creative to engage his students, to keep their attention, to get them interested in biology,
Yes.
They're teenagers.
Right.
Or top of their list.
And in his case, it's college. But no, exactly. Like in teaching in any situation, there's so much creativity that comes with it, because if you speak in a monotone voice and say, oh, today we're talking about biology, who the hell wants to listen to that?
Yeah, right.
Like nobody, no kid, no adult, nobody. You're just going to fall asleep and you're going to be daydreaming and but if you're like having big body movements, if you're showing them interesting information, if they're actually hands-on, then they're engaged. It's an experience.
Right. And then they'll see how it fits into their life.
Yes.
Biology can be intimidating, even for college students.
That's a really good point to make, though. People need to see it means something to people when they can see themselves in it.
Yes.
So how it fits into their life.
Yeah.
Okay. So as we're getting to the top of the hour, can you please tell people how they can find you?
My publisher is Rushmore Press. I have a Facebook, Dawn Menge 1, an Instagram, Dawn Menge, Twitter, Queen Vernita. I have a website, Dr. Dawn Menge. You can contact me on any of those avenues. If you'd like an author signed copy, let me know. If you'd like to buy a book and you're not sure which one would be the best, because they do go from pre-K to 6th grade, send me a note and I'll let you know, based on your child's level, which would be the best one, or your interests.
Wonderful.
Or if you read my books and you really like them.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
If you read my books and you really like them, let me know.
Yes. Feedback. People, we love hearing this kind of information.
Yeah.
So, oh my gosh. So before we go, is there any kind of final words of wisdom, advice, anything that's on your mind that you want to share?
Just get out there and try. Maybe you won't be successful right off the bat, but, just try different avenues, try different paths, see what creativity, see what you have to give to the world. What is your passion?
Don't be afraid.
Yes.
Don't be afraid. Just do it. Yeah. And you learn. It's a process. We make mistakes along the way, and embrace those mistakes, because they lead to all these other avenues that we never would have thought of.
Right.
So, Dr. Dawn, thank you so much for spending this hour. This was the perfect way to round up 2021. I really appreciate you, and I'm totally inspired by you. So thank you.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. And if anybody would like to contact me, let me know.
Yes, yes, yes. So this space is all about inspiring each other, connecting and sharing stories. So please like, follow, and share. I'm on all of those: Spotify, Pandora, Apple Podcasts, any space that you can obviously hear on Podbean. Any space, please give a review, all of that kind of stuff. It helps with the algorithms and is much appreciated, and all that, how all that works. And if you're feeling inspired to write a story and you're not exactly where to start, my publishing house, Express Yourself Publishing, is putting together a multi-author book now called Invisible No More: Stepping into the Spotlight. So I would love to chat with you. If it's something that interests you, just reach out. So wherever you are in the world, I wish you a good morning, a good afternoon, a good evening, and look forward to talking to you in 2022. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Feeling inspired? There are so many ways to do things for you, to get yourself moving, to get your creative juices flowing, and to have fun. Check out I Am Creative and Express Yourself Publishing. Go to iamcreativephilly.com, iamcreativephilly, PHILLY.com, and check out the experiential kits. Check out Creative Shui, which is all about creative inspiration and guidance. And for Express Yourself Publishing, there's so many multi-author book opportunities. So I would love to chat with you so much. Everybody's creative. Everybody has a voice, everybody has an expression, and I can't wait to meet you. Thank you so much for taking this hour to listen to our stories and share the energy, and I wish you a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in this world. Bye, everybody.